Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. All you got to do is sign up now and use the promo code BACKPACK. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. That's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today. Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 216. Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca here.
Yes, sir.
How is everybody doing? We are officially into March Madness. I guess we're officially into March Madness. We're talking about it. We're watching all these games. Conference tournaments passed last week. Selection Sunday was this Sunday. March Madness is officially here. I don't know about you, B. I feel like the older I get, and I feel like our guest is probably not going to rock with me on this, but the older I get, I'm not as excited about March Madness the way I used to be. It was something in college.
I'm up this year. What?
Yeah. Except, I wasn't going to bring that up. This year has been so crazy in college basketball. And one of the things I guess I like more, people are the opposite on this. I like more about college basketball. It's like, I actually like the way the more parity works for the tournament. I think it's actually better for the tournament. It makes it more exciting. And it's not like you're not getting bums winning. It's still good teams that are winning. So I actually kind of like that. But I don't know if I'm busier. I'm not around at 12 o'clock on Thursday to watch the first games a lot of times. Although actually this Thursday, maybe for the first time in about 5 or 6 years, I will actually be able to watch the first tip. So I'm actually kind of going to do that. I'm just going to chill on Thursday and watch the basketball.
Yo, here's the thing. I love single elimination tournaments because it's like, enough of this fucking, we have to see, the absolute superstars in best of 7 at the end or whatever. Like, nah, son, if you have a bad day to sit, you out. Get the fuck out of here. Like, nah, I like that shit. You know what I mean? And to your point, yes, we don't be getting bums in the finals or whatever. We get good teams, we get great stories all the time. And honestly, not the most important part of this, but a noteworthy part of why people deserve to be excited as well is, man, gambling is being legal everywhere now. So you know how much money is going to be thrown down over these games? I know our guest is going to feel me on this because he's actually quite good at what I'm talking about. So this is what it is.
That's right? That's actually interesting in the fact that this is probably the year we can see the most legal gambling around the sport that we've probably for most people in their lifetimes have ever seen. Just saying legal game, we know gambling was going on before, but legally that we've seen. But you hear us, we talking college basketball. We haven't talked too much about that on the podcast this season. So you guys probably know who's joining us. You know who it is. He doesn't get enough credit, but we give him all the credit. It's my man, Jamal Murphy, a.k.a. the Blacketologist out here. It's for all you other outlets out there that, got the same people looking the same, breaking down the brackets. They don't look like Murph. They don't look like me. They don't look like Brian. We got Murph here joining us. Murph, what's up, man?
What up? What up? Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, man, we gotta let them know. Look at all these college basketball breakdowns and tell me the color of the people you see.
Yeah.
Come on. Murph, I be looking sometimes and I'm like, damn, ain't nothing changed since 1998. It still looks the same. I'm just saying. But you're here. You doing good, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Can't complain. My favorite time of the year for sure. March is here, so let's go.
There you go. Favorite time of year. March Madness is here. Brian has something that he's got to talk about because it's very interesting to me in terms of, I know some of us, we saw the Coach K little skit that Bomani Jones did on his new show, Game Theory. And, when you see Murph here rocking the Georgetown hat, if you rock the Georgetown hat, that generally means you probably don't have love for Coach K. Maybe not the kind of coach that you would rock with. I think that's a fair assumption. It's not the kind of coach you rock with. To which Brian has a question, which I'm gonna just let him take because he said this is an interesting question he wants to ask the people. So go ahead, Brian.
I don't know if this happens to y'all, but every time this has happened probably for about, I don't know, 5 years or so, to me at least. Every time we get to this time of year, I'm like, I start getting the bug to like look for like college hoops 2K8, NCAA basketball 10. I still have a couple games, so I'll pop one in, maybe do a little tournament, maybe do a little dynasty if I got time or whatever the case may be, right? So as I'm playing this out, because I was actually playing some last night, as I was watching like the A10 championship, the American championship, and the SEC championship. And I was watching these games and playing college hoops 2K. I was thinking like, yo, what kind of coach would I be, right? And I was kind of thinking this from the standpoint of like bringing this up on the podcast because I know what y'all think I'm going to say in terms of I know like what the projections would be in terms of what kind of coach. So I'm curious, Murph especially, right? Because Murph, I could see you legitimately coaching. I don't know if you thought about this at some point in your life going in that direction. But like I'm curious as to what kind of players y'all would recruit, what kind of players would y'all scout, what kind of players would y'all try to develop, if you would be the type of coach that had a system that you would try to fit players in, or would you try to just get players and then just figure it out from there. Like I'm curious as to what y'all coaching styles would be because they actually do have this in some of the games where you get to pick a coaching style and all those sort of.
I will let Murph lead off. I think it's a very good question though. Although I think it's very predictable what kind of coach you would be and who you'd recruit. But I think it's a really good question. And Brian, you're laughing because you know it's true. You know whatever I describe about who you think is going to be it.
Give me a name. Who's my comparison? What kind of
like a coach? A coach that compares to you?
Yeah,
you could be like a younger Frank Martin. You could be like that.
Shit.
You know what I mean?
I can see that. Though.
He's very fiery.
That.
He's very fiery.
And very fiery. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
Like I don't think I'd be like. See, here's the thing. I've said this. Like I don't think I could coach. I don't think I could coach kids. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I could do it. But I don't think I'd be yelling at people like that. You know what I mean? I don't think I'd be screaming at people in the way that y'all think. I really don't.
Just refs.
It's okay. Just refs.
Maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not.
I probably get it. I probably will get into it with other coaches if their kids are like, beating the shit out of my kids and be like, nah, son. I'm a protective person when it comes to my people. All right.
You're gonna be doing the Juwan Howard on the handshake line. That's how it's gonna be.
That might.
You're gonna be doing the Juwan Howard on the handshake line.
You might be Juwan Howard. snuffing people in the
I think about this a little bit more.
All right, but Murph, what kind of coach do you think you would be, or how would you recruit? That's a good question, Brian, that I haven't thought about. So okay.
Well, I actually coached high school JV. I coached at Poly Prep for like 3 or 4 years, and I was the assistant on the varsity. As a head coach, I'm a laid back guy. But I always have like a couple fiery assistants, you know what I'm saying, to do the dirty work. I'll scream if I have to. But in terms of like philosophy, what kind of people I would recruit, like I want athletic, smart kids. Like, I want kids with high basketball IQ. I need a very unselfish team. I need guys who love to pass, not just will pass because you tell them to. I want a true unselfish team, and it starts with defense. Like, I don't care on whatever level, we gotta dig in, grind, and play defense. That's how I was as a JV coach. I'm constantly just talking about whatever next play. I don't care what happens on offense. We got to get a stop and a rebound. Stop and a rebound. I'm screaming that all game. So I'm one of those coaches, old school. It starts with defensive rebounding, and then offense. I just want unselfishness on the offensive end. As far as personality-wise, I'd probably kind of be a player's coach, but not afraid to let people know the real. You know what I'm saying? Like if you garbage, if you playing like trash, I have to tell you at that time. Or I mean, it's just like I'm not gonna go around it. Like you got to know the real, because as a player, you appreciate that from a coach. Telling you what it is. And even, I'm sure we all heard this as a player, when the coach is screaming on you, that kind of means he cares about you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? For the most part.
It took me a while to understand that, but yep.
It's when the coach not saying nothing to you, then you should be worried. That he don't give a a shit about you, really. So
Yeah.
that would be my philosophy for the most part.
I could rock with that. I think for me, yeah, I think it's funny. I think your coaching philosophy is probably influenced a lot by like who you played for, how you played. No matter what level. I played for two different coaches in high school. I'm more of a laid back guy, my personality, but like Murph, I believe in defense first. That's how I was coached. You got to bring the effort on. If you don't bring effort on defense, you can sit your ass on the bench. You're not playing for me. That's not happening. You are going right to the bench. Okay. Other thing I will not tolerate. I cannot tolerate if I'm having a team. I like motion offense. I like unselfishness. But point guard and B, I know you're gonna love this about this position. Point guard, gotta be able to shoot and hit free throws. You can't shoot or hit free throws. You're gonna sit your ass on the bench.
True.
There's gonna be a lot of that with me. You keeping it real. You don't do this, sit your ass on the bench. I'm a player's coach. I think Brian will notice in me a lot of like watching me having led a group of students with workers in high school. I'm very about make mistakes. I'm about learning. I believe in learning through different situations. I believe in that. In terms of
You would
recruiting,
definitely hold your timeouts. You would definitely let your kids play through it a little more.
I would. Yeah, I would. I definitely would. I definitely am a like. We're gonna hold timeouts unless it gets too bad. I feel like Murph could probably, and I think both of you guys agree with this in high school basketball, whatever level you're playing. Sometimes you need to feel how a run feels on both sides, whether it's offense or defense. So for me, it's like sometimes you need to know how it feels when you can't get stops and like come back later and then talk like, yo, how was that? What did you do wrong? How did you let it build that much? Why you can't let that happen at home, road, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm with Murph on this. High IQ, that matters. You're stupid, you're not gonna play. Simple as that. We can't be having that. You can't be making mistakes. High basketball IQ. I'm not gonna be the person that says I value that over talent, athleticism, because there's people that buy into that for certain kinds of people in basketball, like, oh, they're high IQ guys. We're not gonna do that. I want that, but you got to play smart. You got to play hard. You got to have skill, and you got to be ready to work. That's it for me. I'm not. Listen, I know Brian. You want to get the underdogs and the all stars, but we got to have some stars playing with Dexter Henry. You can't play. You can't be playing with Dexter Henry if you don't believe in yourself as a star. You might not be a star. I can respect that, but you got to believe in yourself like a star.
Oh no, I'm with you 100%.
Okay. That's my thing. Yeah.
No.
You can go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say.
No, because like I agree. Like you. I'm not saying like I wouldn't need a star necessarily, but but I would want like people who have certain personalities, obviously, right? Like my point guard,
personality.
My point guard, especially, and I know this haven't been. My point guard needs to be a motherfucker. You understand what I'm saying? Like my point guard needs to be defense first, pass the ball, shoot, be able to shoot. I don't need him to get 15, 20, whatever points a game or whatever the case may be. Just like 10 will be good, and a good amount of assists, obviously. Ideally not many turnovers, but I would want somebody who's going to be defensive oriented, set the tone, because if you're the point guard, you're for me, that's the most important position. And from there, we can figure it out. I prefer more shooting than not. I don't need everyone to be jacking threes all the time, but I would like at least, a couple good shooters. I'd prefer that one of my bigs can get out and stretch the floor even to the mid-range area. Just because like when I was playing video games back in the day, or when I was playing actual basketball back in the day, I preferred as a point guard if we had, along with me, at least 3 of the 4 other guys that could stretch the floor. If we have one guy that couldn't, that's fine. Ideally, that would be the center. That would be somebody getting dirty work. And I just want people who have that dog personality, baby. Like, I don't care if people think that grit and grind doesn't work or can't win, whatever the case may be. Like, yo, either we're going to beat your ass or you're going to fucking hate trying to beat our ass. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's something that you would expect me to say. But look, I mean, I am what I am,
I mean, I'm glad you know who you are, what kind of coach you be. That's
defense first. I want to echo that too, because y'all made that point.
Yes.
That's
with me. Yeah. Defense first. I don't care if the final score is 48-46. All right, I'm taking W. I prefer not, because I actually do like to get out and run, but
Yeah, no giving up uncontested layups. Nothing worse.
Not that. And
if you're gonna foul fucking hard. I don't want you giving up. I don't want you giving up just the easy, layup or whatever the case may be. If you're going to foul, don't give up the M1. You
Yeah,
know?
I'm old school on that too. I agree. I can remember some ugly games in high school that were won. Yeah, Murph, you might have won some ugly games. You didn't score. Brian, you know about this too, but you locked somebody up and you knew it was tough. Man, them wins felt good.
Oh yeah,
Oh hell
yo,
yeah!
shooting guard from St. Demetrius. I remember this shit. This motherfucker came into the game
I mean, yes,
averaging like 20 something against us, and I was like, yo, I'm face guarding him the whole fucking game. All right, and
yep.
we ended up
Yeah.
winning by a
I
good
can
amount.
so see you doing this. I can see it. I can see it. All right, before we get into the tournament, speaking of coaching, man, in college world, Murph, a lot of coaching carousel craziness. A lot of coaches moving around, moving about already, even though the regular season just ended. Is this shocking to you? You think there'll be some more big names on the move? Obviously, Coach K leaving Duke, who we all love.
Mm.
Is there going to be some more big names on the move? What do you think about what's been going on?
I mean, it seems like a regular cycle. I mean, every year there's turnover. Whatever programs don't do well, they're going to be changes, especially if there haven't been changes in a couple years. A lot of these, like South Carolina, Frank Martin has been there 10 years. White in Florida, same kind of deal. He'd been there a while, didn't have enough success. So yeah, there's going to be turnover in these places, and you can expect some more too. I'm not sure from where exactly right now, but look for any team that gets upset. You might have to start looking around.
Mm.
A la Shaka Smart last year. Remember, he was at Texas. People thought he got off the bubble because he got them a 3 seed. Then they go down in an upset in the first round, and he wasn't fired. He wasn't fired, but he saw the writing on the wall and took a better job for himself. So that kind of thing is going to continue.
Yeah, we could definitely see that.
I also
Okay.
wanted to ask
Yeah.
Murph, what do you think? Because we mentioned this in the chat earlier, but there are some really good, interesting opens in terms of like names and big conferences and things like that. Florida, we talked about South Carolina, Maryland, Missouri, LSU, Louisville, Kansas State. There are some others, and there are probably going to be others that pop up, especially in the mid majors. But like, I don't know, are there some names, programs? Like, what should we be like really looking at as some of these positions get filled out, and what should we expect?
Well, I think you got to wait till after the tournament to see what coaches are really available. But I really like that LSU job. I mean LSU always has talent, football and basketball, and it's no different this year. Their basketball team, they were 6th seed in the tournament. Of course, they had Will Wade as their coach, and it was a miracle he lasted that long after he was part of that FBI probe, and he was caught on tape on FBI wiretap saying, making offers, telling his minions to give such and such player a strong ass offer, and he was able to coach 2 years after that. While some of those assistant coaches who are doing time for those transgressions. So that, as an aside, it's wild that Will Wade is just now being let go. But said, having said that, LSU, just a hotbed of talent. So I'll be interested to see who goes there. You mentioned South Carolina, and I had mentioned to you before that Oklahoma State coach Mike Boynton, who's a Brooklyn guy and played at Lockland. He played at South Carolina, and I remember there was talk of him before he signed. He re-signed with Oklahoma State last year. There was talk of him maybe being interested in that South Carolina job. I'm not sure if that's the case. I know I spoke to him last year, and he seemed very loyal to the Oklahoma State AD. So I doubt he leaves there, having just signed an extension. But he's a name that might get floated around. I even heard his name floated around for Georgetown, and that's not even an open spot yet. So we'll see.
It very going to be very interesting this off season for college. Okay, let's get to the tournament. After Selection Sunday, you know what always comes up. All right, did the committee get this right? Did they mess it up? Do you think the committee got this right with the 68 teams that were selected on Sunday, Murph, or did they mess it up?
I think they messed it up, man,
Oh,
and not it, and just around the periphery and the edges. I mean, it's almost impossible to mess up the tournament because everybody knows. It gets to a point where there's pretty much agreement on what teams are going to make the tournament. About there's agreement to about 65 teams every year. Where everybody knows 65 teams deserve it, and there's like 3 or 4 or 8 teams vying for 3 or 4 spots, right? Every year, that's how it works. And I think they messed that up this year. I think, to me, it was egregious to let Notre Dame to give Notre Dame a spot in the tournament. They were the last team selected, but I think Notre Dame remember they were second. They finished second in the ACC, so I think that was it. I think that people, and we talked about this off air about how the ACC was down this year,
Right.
but I don't. But you could tell that the committee wasn't so much in touch with that. I think they were thinking that this is the 1995 ACC or something like that. That was strong, and they hear the name Notre Dame, and they're like, oh, they came in second. Oh, they have to be in. What are we talking about? But if you look closely, their resume was completely bare, and the team that got left out was, to me, that was most egregious was Texas A&M with Coach Buzz Peterson. Now, Notre Dame, like I said, they were second in the ACC, so everybody's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? They have to be in, right?" I mean, it's the ACC, but remember, leagues don't play round robins anymore. The ACC is one of those leagues that doesn't. Each team doesn't play every other team in the league twice, so they only played Duke once at home. Didn't do anything with that. Duke beat them pretty easily at home. Notre Dame had one really good win supposedly, which was a home game, which is a home win versus Kentucky. And you constantly hear people saying, "Oh, they beat Kentucky. They beat Kentucky at home." Uh, let's okay, they won a home game versus Kentucky, and their only other good win was an away game at Miami, who's a 10 seed. But look at Texas A&M, who gets left out. All their computer numbers were better than Notre Dame. All right, they beat Notre Dame on a neutral court. Okay, and if you want to ignore that, okay, ignore that. Texas A&M beat Arkansas, who's a 4 seed in the tournament now. They beat Arkansas on a neutral court and at home. They beat Auburn on a neutral court, which is a 2 seed. Okay, and they beat Alabama at Alabama, which is a 6 seed. So that's like 3 times as much as Notre Dame did. So I really do think it was egregious to snub Texas A&M like that and let Notre Dame in. I also think Wyoming is a bit shaky as an at-large team. They had a similar resume to Notre Dame. They played really well in their conference, but even which is the Mountain West Conference with San Diego State and Boise State, who are very good teams this year. They're in the field, but they only won 2 home games against Colorado State and I believe Boise State. So it's not even like they went on the road and had any big wins either. And I think Texas A&M had a better resume than them, and so did probably Oklahoma. And maybe for Wyoming's case, maybe they wanted to get a lesser known team in there, from a different conference. But then at the same time, you put Notre Dame in, presumably just because they're from the ACC. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then I think the ACC as a whole, they kind of just glossed over the fact that they weren't that good this year, and they overseeded a couple ACC teams, including Duke as a 2 seed. And
Where would you have put him, Murph? Where
I
would you
mean,
have put Duke?
when I was predicting what the tournament would do, I had them as a 2 seed because I felt like they would overseed them. So it wasn't a surprise.
Hmm.
But I think Tennessee had a better resume. Tennessee could have been the 2 seed. Wisconsin had a better resume than Duke, and there might have been and Auburn was probably has a better resume than Duke, to tell you the truth. But Duke is Duke. North Carolina, who I had as a 10 seed, they get an 8 seed. Partly I guess ACC, partly because they're North Carolina. So I think we always talk about diversity in different areas of sports, and what you have with the selection committee is probably even worse in terms of, if you look at the usual makeup of that. You're dealing with all athletic directors and administrators. They're mostly white and older, and I think I think we got to get some diversity in that room much more often.
That's
Yeah.
that's interesting. I also thought like some teams, because you listed some examples, but I thought there was one point that I heard somebody make, and I don't remember who it was, that I agree with, where it felt like the conference tournaments or the results of such weren't really valued like that in
Right.
terms of seeding. Like you would have thought that some of the tournament winners, like Virginia Tech, may have gotten a better seed. And then I also thought like some teams, like Illinois being a 4 was one that was shocking to me, though they didn't have a great loss in the Big Ten tournament. I thought that they would have been at least like a 3. So that was a little surprising to me. So what did you think overall about like the seeding for some of those teams? And like, because you make the point about the lack of diversity in the room. And I think there's also just not really valuing some of these postseason tournaments that we saw, or valuing them in the case of like an Illinois too much.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing with the conference tournaments is, and this has happened for years, and like when I do my bracketology and try to predict the field, I take it into account. When those conference tournaments where they have the championship on Sunday, the committee has historically ignored them. Okay, so they go into it. It's as if they have them seated. Saturday they get everything done Saturday, and like I said, these are rich older white guys, and do they really want to put that time in on that Sunday? I don't know. They want the way it comes across is like they just want to get it over with, and they make their decision Saturday night, and they're like, "Hey, man, whatever happens Sunday, we're not even going to account for that." John Calipari has been screaming about that for years because he oftentimes wins the SEC tournament, and he has the same seed as if that game didn't even happen. So that's what happened this year with Tennessee. Like I said, Tennessee in actuality, in their resume, they should have been a 2 seed. They were a much more impressive resume than Duke, for instance. But part of what made that is the fact that they won the SEC tournament, which was hard to do. The SEC is one of the best leagues in the nation this year, and even when I was predicting the field, I acted as if that didn't happen either. So I just kept them as a 3 seed, and that's what they ended up being. And I think the same thing for Houston. Houston, Memphis in the American.
Right.
I think they had what, a 5 seed. I don't think it mattered whether they were going to beat Memphis or not. And Memphis, it didn't matter if you won or lose. They were going to get that 9 seed. So I think it's a question of when those tournaments are played, and that's the reason. Remember, ACC used to play their championship on Sundays. I think the Big East did also, and they intentionally moved it up a day to Saturday because of that. And I think if the SEC wants their tournament to mean something, they're gonna have to move that away from Sunday.
I was wondering if that's something that they would eventually do. Would they move it away from Sunday? Because you're right. Calipari's been screaming about that for years. And it's maybe I'm thinking about that too. Maybe everybody just move it away. Maybe no more Sunday games and we just wait till selection Sunday, have it. You got all the information before. Because like you said, these older dudes who are too lazy to factor in the games that might end at 4:30 or 5 o'clock before 6 Eastern. They're too lazy to do that. So who knows? All right, moving on. Now we look at this bracket. People got jerked. Some people, got hooked up. Who are the sleepers? Which teams are dangerous? People still looking to fill out their bracket before Thursday starts, because I'm not really going to count the first four. But although you junkies are going to be betting on that.
Hey, didn't VCU make it to the Final Four
That-
from
that- out of the first four? Don't just
with Joey
Don't listen to me.
Rodriguez,
Don't-
Puerto Rico's finest
Your
as a point
peoples.
guard on that team. You know what I'm saying? He's a coach now.
Yeah. Not yet. Yeah, so you know what? Don't listen to me. Don't discount that first four. Who do you think are the sleepers, Murph, in this tournament? What are some teams you think that are absolutely dangerous, can make a run? And when I say make a run, at least get into the Sweet 16.
Yes.
Not just some one day first round upset. They
Get out
are
the
gonna
first
make some
week.
noise. Get out the first week. Yeah, there we go. Get out the first week, like Brian said, can actually make some noise here. Who's some sleepers you got?
All right. Well, I got one who is kind of like one of those sleepers to win a first round game that could potentially get to a Sweet 16. I think is Chattanooga, and unfortunately for Brian, they play Illinois. And the problem is Illinois, man, is, as you know, they've been inconsistent. They haven't been
Shaky
100%.
boy.
Curbelo has not been 100% all season.
Nope.
Yeah.
And that's kind of showed. So they've been up and down. They're very, very talented. They could go the other way for them too. They could be a Final Four team, but they're hard to trust. And Chattanooga is a team from a smaller conference that they kind of, when you watch them on TV, they look like a big conference team in terms of they're big, they're long, they're athletic, they're strong, they're old. So, and they've won a lot of games this year. They're very confident. So I would worry about Chattanooga. I think Marquette is a team that's slept on. I think I had them as a 7 seed. They get a 9 seed in here. They actually won 7 straight games in the middle of the season in the Big East. The Big East was a grind this year for everybody. I mean, it was an old physical league. I think Marquette is going to be so happy to get out of the Big East and play some other teams. They start with North Carolina, who, of course, that's a brand name team they're playing. So, for all the bettors out there, if you're looking for value, Marquette is a good value at +3. because when you look at their resume, they've done a lot more than North Carolina has this year. They've beaten better teams than North Carolina has this year. They swept Villanova. They swept Seton Hall. They had some other big out of conference wins. North Carolina only, their really only really good win was at Duke this year. And we know when that happened, Coach K's last game. I know a lot of people were either crying or very happy about that. That kind of tore the nation in
Me and
half.
Dexter enjoyed that.
I don't know if anybody enjoyed it more than our guy Gerard Hector. That man enjoyed that win. He enjoyed that. Yeah.
Wait, let me ask you, Murph, because now that I also pulled up the bracket, I kind of want just to throw you a little bit of rapid fire here.
Okay.
You think Michigan State could beat Duke in the second round?
Yes. In fact, I filled out a bracket quickly last night when it came out. I'll probably change some things, but I'm on this first bracket I filled out. I have Michigan State beating Duke, and it's not because really Michigan State has not been great this year, and I don't think they're, I think they're a average to solid team, but they're very tough. They played in the tough Big Ten, which is similar to the Big East in terms of physicality. So they're very physical. Izzo obviously very experienced in the tournament. So they're not going to back down anybody. And I was front and center for watching Duke in the ACC tournament in Brooklyn that just finished. I watched them very closely. I watched them during the year on TV. Duke's problem is they're kind of a passive team. They're fresh. They have tremendous talent, especially with Banchero and AJ Griffin, but neither one of them is a naturally aggressive player. They kind of let the game come to them. They can be passive. They can some nights they don't even show up. So they don't get to 50-50 balls. They're not the dive on the floor type team.
Not a believer in Duke? Is this because if we're talking about sleepers, are you also saying Duke's prime for an upset?
No, Duke is. If you've been watching, I guess a lot of people don't. But if you've been watching, Duke is prime. If you don't think Duke is prime for an upset, you haven't been watching, because they started the year off strong. They beat Gonzaga and they beat Kentucky the first game of the year. They beat Kentucky. They beat Gonzaga. First couple weeks of the season. But once ACC started, we have already talked about the ACC being weak this year.
Yeah.
Duke won the ACC, but they didn't dominate. They lost to teams that didn't even make the tournament. They lost. Florida State had a terrible year, but they went up to Duke and won. Miami went into Duke and won.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech has no business beating Duke. I'm sorry.
And Murph, to your point, this is not to me. And I said this was going to be quick. Evidently not, because we got to shit on Duke right fast. To me, even though this is a highly ranked Duke team, this doesn't feel like a great Duke team to me. I don't think this team at all is better than the Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish Duke team from a couple of years ago that got popped in the Elite Eight, I think it was. So
they're not as good.
This is that.
They're not as good as that team. And the thing is, they might be as talented as in terms of raw talent, but they don't have that mentality yet. And and when you had guys like Zion and particularly RJ Barrett, who was a freshman, but he was anything but passive. Okay, he had Zion in his team, and he swore he was the man. You know what I'm saying? And now you kind of want that mentality in a guy like Banchero. You wish Banchero had that mentality, because he would be dominating if he had that mentality. And the one thing to think, like I said, they played well in the beginning of the season, but as this Coach K last year pressure has mounted towards the end of the season, and we see they didn't really handle it well in Coach K's last game at Duke, and then they had a chance to redeem themselves. That's what the talk was once they got to the ACC final. Now they have a chance to win the ACC tournament in Coach K's last season. Can they do it? And again, they laid another egg. And I don't want to take too much away from Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech plays very, very hard. They're very fundamentally sound, but they played harder. They played harder than Duke in that game. And Duke missed free throws. Duke was throwing, making dumb turnovers on the break. So I just don't feel like they have the makeup of a team that's going to go far. I don't see it.
Let me give
But
you a couple more.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
was,
Dex.
no, no, I wanted you to fire some more at him, and I also,
Yeah.
Murph, I also keep bringing it with the teams that you think people might be high on, like a Duke, or overrated too. Besides the sleepers, who's overrated that's prime for upset? But go ahead, Brian. Keep firing some more. Yeah.
Who's the weakest one seed that you could most
Oh, there
see
we
get
go.
popped? Get to lean into Dexter's point. Who's the weakest one seed that you could most see get popped this first week, like in the
Yeah,
second round?
I'm into. I like this.
See, it's a tricky question because I think there's so much parity in this year's NCAA tournament, this year's college basketball, that it wouldn't really surprise me if any of the one seeds went down in the second round or easily the Sweet 16. But the second round, it wouldn't. I don't think I'd be surprised by any of them. I wouldn't. I would definitely not be shocked. But when I look at the weakest, it's really surprising because the Big 12 was very good this
Oh
year as usual.
yes,
But I see both Big 12 one seeds as kind of weak because they're not what they were. Like Baylor had a great had a great season. Remember, they were dominant last year, won the national championship. They come back with a really completely different team for the most part in terms of their leaders. But they won probably more big games than any other team in the country, but
right.
they lost multiple players to injury. Okay, they've lost two of their best players to injury, so they've been kind of like winning with patchwork, winning on toughness, but they lost to the first round Big 12 tournament game to Oklahoma, who's not even in the field. Okay, so they can be beaten. They're not the same team as last year, and yes, I don't have a problem with them being rewarded a one seed because of their body of work during the regular season, but they come into the tournament kind of shaky and not all that strong, in my opinion. And Kansas, who has had another very good year, Bill Self is one of the best coaches ever. He's a Hall of Famer, and he did a Hall of Fame job with this team. But when you look at his pieces, this is not a normal Kansas team that has all these pros. He doesn't have like a true solid NBA player that there might be a guy or two that'll make the NBA, but he doesn't have nowhere close to an NBA star on this team. I think the right team. If you play with toughness and you play fundamentally sound, you can beat Kansas too. So I would go with Baylor and Kansas.
What's funny is that as you mentioned that, like I could totally see. I may have even picked this for one of my brackets. I got to go back
Mm,
and look. I could totally see Marquette beating Baylor in the second round. I
I
could
can see
Yeah,
totally
that
see
too.
that.
they could beat them. Like just in terms of
You're definitely going to put that in one of your brackets for sure.
I did, yeah. Did I put it?
Is it
Yeah.
like he's like I
I
did,
didn't.
I
I
did
didn't
Shot
put.
already.
the
I didn't
smart,
put it.
baby.
I didn't put it in my initial bracket. Even if Baylor gets by, that's going to be a war. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, just physicality wise, physically, they could match up with Baylor. They're just a little younger. Marquette is kind of a young team. They got a senior point guard who's solid, but they're kind of a young team overall. But a young and very talented and physical team, so they could do it.
I do want to add something, Murph, in that realm around the one seed, and you kind of touched upon this with Duke, right? With Coach K retiring and this being his last tournament. Who has the most pressure? Is it Duke because of that? Is it Gonzaga because they've knocked on the door for so many years? They
Great
got Chet
question.
Holmgren. They've got this player. Who has the most pressure in the tournament? Single game elimination. B talked about all the pressure that everybody faces, but the pressure ain't the same for everybody, right? It's
Mhm.
different with different levels of stuff. What team do you think has the most pressure?
I would, the two you mentioned. I think Duke has that pressure. I mean, everywhere they go. I mean, you think about it, and I'm just thinking about this for the first time right now that you asked this question. I mean, I just talked about they wilted under the pressure of Coach K's last home game, right? And there was legitimate pressure there, right? No
Right.
question about it.
Yep.
They, then they wilted under the pressure of of his last ACC tournament chance to win, in his last season. Okay, there was some amount of pressure with that. There's not going to be any more pressure than you actually could be playing Coach K's last game. Period. In
Every
in
game, every
yeah,
game that is
every
right.
Everything.
game, every game in a tournament where how to see, how it is. Like you got all these eyes coming in who don't really watch college basketball, who just think Duke is Duke, and they're supposed to be in the Final Four. Okay, and they do have the talent. They are talented enough to get there. I'm not saying I wouldn't be shocked if they got to the Final Four if they actually put it together and they just came out and played inspired basketball. Um, but that they haven't shown previously that they can deal with this pressure, and this only adds. It only gets the pressure only builds. When this is these are the highest stakes that they've been in this NCAA tournament. So yeah, I think Duke has probably the most pressure because of the situation with Coach K, and that's what the media is going to focus on. And I agree with you also on Gonzaga, where maybe that pressure falls more on the coach,
Yeah.
even though to be honest, Gonzaga's is uh is apologizing for getting to multiple Final Fours in the last few years and getting to a championship game or getting to two championship games. I mean, they're here, like, and they get McDonald. They have like McDonald's All Americans coming off their bench. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
And they
Yeah,
always play a tough schedule.
yeah.
They always play a tough
They always
non-conference
play a
schedule.
tough schedule,
Yeah.
and like I
Mhm.
said, they usually produce in the tournament by getting at least to the final 8 or the final 4 championship game. Last, two out of the last 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's media created pressure on them, which could affect few, and I'm sure it seeps down to the players. We know Chet Holmgren. He's a one and done guy.
Yeah.
This is his one chance. Will he put too much pressure on himself? He kind of did that in the beginning of the season, but he's gotten better and better as the season has gone on. So I think those teams have a lot of pressure. A team like Auburn, who was a number one in the nation during the season, has kind of slipped off a little bit. I think the pressure has gotten to them. I could see it being a little too much for them once the tournament starts. But I think those three teams really, and Kentucky always has all kind of pressure on
I
them.
wanted to ask about
You know,
them because I think do you think Murray State could beat them in round 2?
mm, not really. I, can it happen? Of course, right?
Anything's possible.
Anything can happen. And Murray State is a very good team. A very good team. I think they won like 28 straight games or something like that.
Yeah, they're like 30
Um,
and 2.
Yeah, they're 30 and 2. Obviously, they're not playing that kind of competition. They beat Memphis when Memphis was kind of a mess during the whole. I think that was right around the time when Penny Hardaway screamed on everybody, talking about "Don't play me, bro." You know what I'm saying? But but they're a good team. Could they do it? Yes, but here's the thing about Kentucky. I think they're a little overrated, but
Mm.
they are very, very solid. They've been very solid this year. They have not been losing. This year they haven't lost the teams that they're supposed to beat. Okay, that hasn't been their problem this year. They take care of business. They're kind of a workman-like team. They don't have like a true star. Ty
Sure.
Washington hasn't really broken out to that extent,
Mhm.
and everybody else is kind of like transfers that are solid. They do their job, and they usually do their job. Their problem is I don't like their ceiling. I don't really think they are a national championship team.
Mm.
I think if they play Gonzaga, I think Gonzaga would beat them. I think UCLA could beat them. I think Purdue
Mm.
could beat them, but I don't think a lesser team can beat them. And like a team with lesser talent, I don't think Murray State's going to beat them.
How is Purdue a team I should look at in terms of being able to make a run? Because I love their point guard Ivy. He's
Jaden
really
Ivey's
dope.
good.
I
Yeah.
I think he's really good. I think he's got really good pro prospect game. Do you think they're a team, or do they not have enough beside him to make a run?
They have enough beside him, but offensively, they're a great offensive team, but they don't play defense, which is surprising from a Purdue team. Usually, Purdue is known for their defense, and this
Yeah.
year, I think that they were like a plus 100 team, ranked 100 team defensively in the nation, and no. I don't think any team with that poor defensive rating has made the Final Four in like the
Mm.
past 10 years at least. I think like the lowest someone has been, I think, is in the 40s in defense to make it to the Final Four. So I think that they have too many holes defensively. They try to outscore people. I do love Jaden Ivey also. He is great, but he can be undisciplined. He can try to do too much athletically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but they do have but he does have help offensively. They have a lot of guys that can hurt you offensively. So I think they're the type of team who any given day they could beat anybody. They could beat and play with anybody. They could make it to the Final Four, but they got to show up their defense, and they haven't done that all year.
We will see. You got some more rapid ones for him, Brian?
They're more player centric, so let's get on to that part.
Yeah,
of this.
let's go on to that.
Then
Okay.
before we make
Yeah.
Final Four picks, which we're all going to do at the end of this, we do need to talk about some of the players who could potentially break out or not, because I do find it interesting, not to harp on Duke here, but Paolo Banchero, like in terms of players, individual players who have some pressure, I think that he's somebody that does. Jaden Ivey, I don't know how much pressure he totally has. I think he's actually been better than a lot of people or a lot of casual observers probably predicted. Jabari Smith, I mean, after that ending in the SEC tournament, you know what I mean? Like, we'll sort of see. I don't think Miami could beat them if they beat USC, but Miami's had some interesting wins this year that makes me think that they're pretty dangerous. So you mentioned Auburn is going to be under some pressure, so I think that's an interesting route to go. But in terms of players who can help or potentially hurt their draft stock, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got all those guys circled in terms of like breakout type players for this tournament because let's be honest, like I mentioned a couple times, like not everybody's watching college basketball. So pretty much all college stars, this is their breakout moment in the NCAA tournament. This is their make or break moment. Guys think about how their stock can rise and fall just from the NCAA tournament. I know, teams swear they have, the scouts are watching everything. We're going every game. We know about these kids, but all I know is every year I see guys who play well in the NCAA tournament and their stock will jump like crazy.
Yeah.
So it really does come down to how you do an NCAA tournament. I guess part of it is like dealing with the pressure and all that. But yeah, Jabari Smith, I don't really look at it as pressure for these young guys. Even a Banchero, like yeah, he could be feeling that individual pressure, of trying to do it for Coach K or pressure to win because I'm at Duke. But this is just the beginning for him. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, he's going to be a top 3 pick, and he's going to have a whole new set of more pressure. So really, is there really pressure on him? He could lay an egg in the NCAA tournament. He's still going to be a top 3 pick. So. And I think that goes for Jabari Smith also, and it goes for Chet Holmgren, these 3 players. So I think, we're going to really see the cream of the crop in terms of how these three guys perform, with all these lights on them. And I expect them pretty much all to perform, especially Chet Holmgren. I think, like I said, he started off slow in the beginning of the season. Has a weird body type, very, very skinny and tall. Um, so he had to get used to the physicality of college basketball compared to high school. I think over time he's done that, and he's really just a unique kind of talent. The numbers he puts up, he put up like a 17 point, 12 rebounds, 6 blocks type of game. And he can do a little of everything. So I think he's one of these guys that people are going to see. People, he's going to open people's eyes about, you know, how good and versatile he really is. He can handle the ball at 7'3". It's ridiculous. Um, and dunk on you. He can shoot the three. He's obviously a tremendous shot blocker. I think Banchero, we talked about him. He just needs to be more aggressive. I've heard people, try to compare him to Carmelo Anthony. And while his skill set might lend to that, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that dog in him that Carmelo had from day one at Syracuse. Obviously, he took Syracuse to the championship in his freshman year. I don't really see Banchero doing that, but he's still going to show you his overall game. Like I was watching him during the ACC tournament. It seemed like he didn't really show up for, I think it was the semifinal game, but he still ended up with 12 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. So he can do a little of everything, and I think he'll show that. Jabari Smith, I think he has the biggest opportunity to really shine to a point where he surprises people, because people really haven't watched Auburn to that extent, and this kid, I mean, the size at 6'10", and he's a pure shooter. And he is aggressive. I think it's more for him. It's more about his teammates getting him the ball. He has a few guards on that team who think that they are the stars. So a lot of times he doesn't get the touches that he should. But if Bruce Pearl can make sure he has the ball in his hand, he's capable of going off for 30 in college games, which is very rare, as you guys know.
Yep, very rare to see that in the college game for sure.
I
Go,
have a
Brian.
prospect question going the other way. Being that Memphis has been playing better since Amani Bates left, Murph, does this hurt his draft stock? Yes or no?
Oh, there's no question. his stock had to have fallen. I mean,
Woo!
it had because look, I mean, when he was at Memphis, he didn't look like he even he might have shown flashes here and there, but he did not look like he didn't look anything close to like an all even league player in the AAC.
Mhm.
He wasn't even a top 3 player on his team. At the and he looked young and skinny and just and out of sorts. And then he leaves and the team wins. I think the team is ranked second in the nation ever in terms of like efficiency rating and all that ever since he left. And the team goes on this big run. And then Duran, the other freshman, has shined, much more. So there's no question his stock is hurt. I'll be interested to see what his father and he decide to do in terms of what they do next year. I think for his stock, I think he'd be smart to come back to Memphis. There'll be, some guys will leave. There'll be more room, and it'll show people, toughness and resolve to stay in the situation and get better and stronger. I still think he has potential to be very good, but if he leaves, that just adds to, you know, the the, the kind of poor reputation he already had in terms of, is he is he tough enough mentally? Is he going to be a problem kid? Is he spoiled? That type of thing. So I think the smart thing would be, he sits out this year, comes back next year, stays with the team, tries to turn things around rather than just to up and run. I think that'd make him look bad.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
very,
to
very
look,
interesting.
he came out a year early, and he probably shouldn't have. Too much, too soon. He's probably getting some bad advice. In high school, the highlights had people thinking he was Kevin Durant 2.0, right? Again, too much, too soon. Look, in this climate, is worse than it was even back then.
Yeah,
And you
but
know,
yeah, I know it, but I also trust people like Murph and looking at these kids and how they're gonna come and play in the college game. I think, we get a little too hype on it. Something I always argue about with our friend Greg about with some of these kids is like, yo, let's wait and see what they could do on the next level. And again, I'm saying this, not saying that Imani Bates is done by any
Right.
means. I
no,
don't think so.
but
I'm
I
I'm
was
rooting
like,
for him.
yo,
I'm rooting
I
for it.
was
I think
like,
the kid has
yo,
a lot of
this
talent.
at one point to me, up until Murph the Chet Holmgren game where he got
Mhm.
outplayed, I was like, this is probably the best prospect I've seen since RJ ish, maybe. Like RJ pre going to Duke. I'm talking about like Team
Right.
Canada, like international, like high schooler. I'm talking about, right? Zion, we really saw it in college because in high school he was dunking on little white kids in South Carolina. It was like, all right, cool. Then in college we were like, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
So, but with Imani Bates, it was like that for me. Like this was the best prospect that I saw in high school, and at least in a couple of years. And then when I saw that he reclassed up to go to college a year sooner, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But he's in Memphis, Penny Hardaway, makes a lot of sense. But man, I still would take a shot at it depending on the organization I am and if I trust my development. He can't even enter the draft this year, so that's the
Right.
good
Which is
thing.
yeah, right. It's a good thing.
Because but I don't think he should do the Brandon Jennings and go overseas. I don't think he should
No,
do that.
no,
Go
no.
back, especially with NIL now. Like he's gonna make bread. Like
Just
I agree with you.
go
Go
And you don't
back,
back to
want to
get
be
Memphis.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the. I don't think he's already shown to me that he doesn't want to be that kid in that island overseas where you're playing with grown men. I mean, that was his problem at Memphis. He was playing with bigger, grown kids. In some cases, men. The college game is older now. You got 25, 24-year-olds on college teams now. Okay, so and he really couldn't handle that physicality, and his game has yet to translate. And I think partly it's his fault because he's going in there still trying to play the same way as if
He
he
did in high
were
school.
as yeah
Hmm.
as if he's
Hmm.
by far the most talented guy on the court, and you're not. So and he hasn't shown an ability to just fit in at all. And he's trying to go hard to the basket, hard, pull up threes. Like when he gets the ball, he always has to feel like he feels like he has to score, and that's not how you need to play. You need to learn how to play the game. And I think Penny should be able to teach him that, but it's hard to teach and win at the same time.
Yeah,
So we'll
that's a
see.
that is a good point. All right, before we get out of here, we got to make our final four and national championship picks. I'm really intrigued to see what everybody else is picked. Brian, let's start with you first. Who are your final four teams? Who do you got?
I've been playing with this. It's tough, man. Like I've been playing with this. I do. Gonzaga was the only team that I feel very confident about because
Same.
I think one, their bracket, their region is kind of weak compared to the others. I have a lot of confidence in their team. And Julian Strother, you know what I'm saying? Another one that
Here
we
we
get.
go.
Look, we got Puerto Ricans in the NCAA tournament. We got in Gonzaga, in Illinois, Iowa State. You know what I mean? Like all over the place. Even in the women's tournament, we have a couple as well. And shit, we have one on one of the best teams in the country also. So we're good, but we can get to that another time. Gonzaga was the only team I felt very confident about. Other than that, in Baylor's region, I've really played with Baylor and Purdue because I don't really believe in Kentucky like that. I'm still struggling there. For now, I'm
Huh.
going to go with Baylor because kind of like what Murph was saying about Purdue's defense, right? Even though I don't trust Baylor necessarily in that way, I also think that bracket, to Murph's point, could get very ugly because I think there's a world where maybe Baylor loses too soon, and then you're talking about like UCLA versus somebody like in a later Elite Eight stage or something like that. I still think Murray State could beat Kentucky. We'll see. And then in the Midwest, like I'm just kind of conditioned. There are certain teams I'm just not really conditioned to trusting. Kansas is one of them, regardless of
Yep.
who's out there,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
So I have, and I don't love this either, but like something about Auburn when I've watched them recently, like I just don't, and these are college kids, so trusting them is hard from a night to night basis. Again, I trust Gonzaga more than anybody. So in that section, I went with Wisconsin, which shocked the hell out of me. It shocked the
Okay.
hell out of me when I did that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and then in the South region, it came down to Arizona versus Villanova for me. Even with Tennessee there, I think Tennessee is very good, but I trust Villanova having watched them, and I like what they did in the Big East tournament. I think they could win ugly, and I think that's a big thing in this tournament. So I went with Villanova, and then I went with Gonzaga beating Villanova in the national championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very interesting. Okay. I'll share mine. Murph, we'll save you for last since you're the expert here. This is kind of weird because my bracket, at least in what I've played around in the variations of it, it's pretty much the same as Brian, which is crazy. I talked to Brian about this. It's pretty much the same. All right. So Gonzaga, I'm with Brian on. Trust them more than anybody right now in the tournament. I I struggled in the East what I was going to do for the same reasons as Brian. I'm going to come out and say I do not trust Baylor. I am not buying into Baylor. I think they are primed for a second round knockout to Marquette. I'm going with that. I think Marquette can knock them off. I do not like that there. So now it comes down to what Brian is talking about, which was tough for me. I really like Purdue offensively, like Murph said, but I don't trust their defense. I think Kentucky's a little bit more balanced than them. I actually picked Kentucky coming out of the East uh, over Marquette in the Elite Eight. I think Marquette's going to make a good run here. I don't love Kentucky, but I'm going with them. There's a lot of things I don't love in this picking this. I also, like Brian, picked Wisconsin. Okay, coming out the Midwest. Do not trust Kansas. Kansas has let me down too many times in the past. I know it's a year-to-year thing, but I got PTSD with Kansas. They always screw me over.
Yep.
I think that bracket is interesting though. The Midwest. I think there's some interesting teams. I'm also not in love with Auburn. Wisconsin plays tough. They play hard. I could see that. I could see them in the Final Four. It wouldn't be crazy. I worry about them a little bit offensively, but
all the time, Dex.
yeah. But I could see they're scrappy, and I think they're going to make things tough for people. And there's always like a team like that seems to make a run. And then lastly, what like Brian said, I'm with Nova, man. I'm with Nova coming out the South. I think they're the best team there. I like how they've played throughout the year. They have a great coach in Jay Wright, tournament tested. I like them. Would it shock me if Tennessee came out of this? Arizona, I just don't believe them. So yeah, my Final Four is Gonzaga, Kentucky, Nova, Wisconsin. Like Brian, I also have Gonzaga and Nova in the championship game with Gonzaga winning. That's what I got. Gonzaga comes through, they get it done, all the pressure. Chet Holmgren looks nice. And I want to hear what Murph says about this. I actually think there's this world where Holmgren is even the more impressive player in this tournament than some of the other guys we talked about. But what scares me about that is, look, and I'll make sure all you guys are on the screen for this. Holmgren goes crazy. 2 Americas. White Americans gonna go crazy about this, man. They're like, we back. New Larry Bird, we're back. They're gonna go crazy. So I'm a little bit intrigued, but I like Holmgren's skill set. And Murph, I know you talked about how he's adjusted through the year. I actually like what he could bring in all seriousness, and I think he's adjusted. But I have this feeling he might step up here in the tournament. We'll see what he can do, and it could be huge for Gonzaga. So we'll see. I got Gonzaga winning it all.
And they're deep. Like, he doesn't need to go
Yeah.
off for them to win.
Yeah,
That's
they
why
got depth.
I like
That
them
team's got
also.
depth.
He's not even their leading scorer. You know what I mean? Like,
I like how Gonzaga's recruited probably the last 5 years or so. And I think, I'm not the biggest college basketball recruiting expert, but they've had some players coming in there where it's like, okay, they got some toughness now.
Yeah.
That's not your old school traditional Gonzaga team. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. All right, Murphy, you're last. Who's your Final Four? Who you got winning it all?
All right, and I'll start with the West. I like Gonzaga, like you guys. Like you said, I think they worry me a little bit. Like I said before, it wouldn't be surprised me if any of these teams get upset in the second round. Even Gonzaga, because I think they were better last year. They were tougher. They were more focused to me last year. They just ran into a buzzsaw in Baylor. This year, I've seen them, almost sometimes get bored, sometimes not really show up like I think they should have. But hopefully maybe they can put that away and really stay focused for the entire NCAA tournament. So I like them coming out of the West. I think their biggest challenger is probably Texas Tech, just because Texas Tech's so tough defensively. I think Texas Tech is not a team anybody else in this region is going to want to run into, because they're just so hard-nosed and gritty, and they got a couple athletes on their team, and they've won some big games this year. So, but I'll take Gonzaga. Coming out the East, I like UCLA. UCLA basically returns the same team that got to the Final Four last year out of the they were in the play-in game to start last year. This year they get a 4 seed. They've been, they were expected to be a top 5 team all season, but they kind of, they took their lumps. Mick Cronin, not really known as a regular season coach. He's kind of like, he brings his teams along and they peak at the right time. I think that'll be the case this year. The only team they really struggled to beat all season was Arizona, but they've had some big wins. Like you said, I don't trust Baylor. I think they, if they meet Baylor in the Sweet 16, I think they would beat Baylor. I think Purdue could be an issue in that region, but I think UCLA is the most complete team, and they, Mick Cronin has, they play defense. That's a defensive minded team, and they have, I don't know if I want to say NBA like talent. I think they have borderline NBA guys, but they definitely have some of the best college players. Like they have 2 or 3 of the best college players in the game. So you got to watch out for them. In the South, I got Arizona coming out. I understand why people would doubt Arizona, and I doubted them too for most of the season. But having watched them, multiple times after, I first started watching them, I was like, I don't believe in these guys. Let's see. And then, they just kept beating people. I would pick against them. They kept beating people, and then beating people by decent margins. Like they dominated. They weren't supposed to win the Pac-12 this year. This was supposed to be UCLA's league. Arizona came out of nowhere and won it really from start to finish. They beat UCLA in the Pac-12 championship. So I think Arizona's, they've been tested all season. So I really don't even see them struggling. A team like Villanova, I just don't think has enough talent-wise. Remember, Villanova, the difference between Villanova this year and in the past years is Villanova doesn't have a pro on their team this year. In past years, they at least had that 1 pro, 2 pros on the team, and I don't really see that this year. And then in the Midwest, which is the shakiest to me, I'm going to go with a team I just kind of shitted on earlier, but I'm going to go with Auburn because I just feel like there's no doubt about Auburn's talent. They have a lot of talent. Bruce Pearl is kind of a tournament coach. Like he's a guy. He always seems to have his team play above their heads come March, or at least come NCAA tournament time. He made the Final Four a few years ago when nobody expected them to. I think he has a team that you could kind of expect them to, and if he gets them to play any bit over their heads, watch out. If he gets them back to how they're playing in the middle of the season, which I think is possible. I do like you got your Wisconsin pick. They're very capable. Wisconsin's capable of beating anybody. The
Yeah.
only problem is that they have also lost to some subpar teams here and
Yep.
there. So I'm a
Yeah.
little worried about them. They have a true pro on their team, Johnny Davis. He's the real deal.
Yep.
He's the real deal. You'll see him in the NBA next year, no question. Another NBA player in that region is plays for Iowa. Iowa could be a sleeper. They got Keegan Murray. He's an NBA player that
Yeah.
you'll see next year. So watch out for those two also. But Arizona, let me go back to Arizona for a second. They got Benedict Mathurin. He's a pro. He's somebody to watch, just to go back to the prospect thing. But yeah, I'm going to take Auburn out of the Midwest. So I got Gonzaga, UCLA, Arizona, Auburn. I'll take Gonzaga to beat UCLA like they did earlier in the season.
Mhm.
And I will take Arizona to beat Auburn. And I got Gonzaga, all West Coast. I'm an East Coast dude. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got an all West Coast final. Gonzaga, Arizona, and Arizona's coach was an assistant coach at Gonzaga last year. They're like best of friends, so that'll be the the headline, the storyline.
Yeah. We want
going into
stories
that.
in March. Yeah.
That's the story. They're like best friends, and he just left Gonzaga to take over the Arizona program in his first year. Now imagine, I got Gonzaga winning the whole thing, but imagine
The
Mark Few
assistant.
lets his assistant go to Arizona and win a championship before he does. That'd be terrible.
Man.
I mean, feel bad to beat him. I mean, can you even have a congratulatory drink with your boy after that? I feel like no, I wouldn't do it.
I'd be salty, man. I'd really,
How could you
I'd be
not be?
salty.
How could you not be?
I'd be
Honestly,
salty.
Human nature, that'd be salty.
I might not talk to you for a couple of days, and I'm a pretty nice person. All right, so that's your pick. Everybody has Gonzaga winning, though. We all pick Gonzaga to win.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen, but
yeah, it's probably not.
Come on, Julian.
It's probably not going to happen.
Bring
But I
that
don't
shit
know.
home.
Hopefully for Gonzaga, they can get over it. I'm shockingly nobody on this podcast picked Duke. Shockingly,
Yeah.
I thought that might happen, but it did
I'm
not
toying
happen.
with them having a second round exit.
I could see it, man. And Murph, I have to say, I love the point you made about how the pressure, because I thought about the pressure. We weren't even supposed to have that question, but I thought about the pressure comment. And then you talked about how it's been building for them and building all year around Coach K. So it's only going to get hotter. I completely agree with you on that. And I'm not sure you're right. They don't have a guy, as Brian would say, that really has that fuck you there on that team to go get this done. They don't really have that kind of guy. So we'll see.
And even straight basketball wise, they don't have consistent outside shooting. They don't have consistent 3-point shooter. And nowadays, how do you win without that?
That's what hurt their more talented, their better overall team a couple years ago with RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish and Zion. This is not as good of a team. So,
not as good as the team. I guess the last thing is, do you think this will be a crazy tournament? Are we seeing a lot of upsets? People say they want this. People always say, "Oh, I want the upsets. I want the crazy stuff on day 1, day 2." Do you think this is going to be a crazy tournament, at least even in the beginning?
I do. I don't even see how it can't be, because just watching this season, even at the top, there hasn't been a front runner. Even Gonzaga's, we might think they're the most talented, that they're the best team, but they haven't. Not every, during the season, no one was saying, "Oh, they're by far the best team in the country." That's not what people were saying, because there have been about 8 teams that you could put, in that category, and then there's not really much of a gap below that. And I pretty much went chalk. I got a 1, a 4, a 1, and a 2 seed making the Final Four. I have very few upsets in the first round, so that means it's going to happen. Okay, the year, because I just don't know. I don't know who to pick. I don't know who the upset, where it's coming from, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
hopefully it's not Chattanooga versus Illinois. I don't want to see that. Loyola, though. Loyola.
That's too predictable. So maybe it won't happen.
Loyola, do what you should do against Ohio State. That's what I want to see.
There you go. All right, y'all. Well, listen. Well, don't listen to my picks, Brian. Listen to the Blacketologist.
I don't know.
And hope. You know what I'm hoping for? You know what I'm hoping for, Murph? You see how Brian's got his little Puerto Rican play? Not little Puerto Rican. I'm not saying that they're short, but he's got the Puerto Rican folks across the country in different teams he's rooting for. Black America, we need another team that we can root for. We need another Georgetown. We need another team we can get behind, like Michigan and the Fab Five. We need this again. We
Yeah.
need this again. We need this.
I
Back
mean,
in college
look, Memphis
basketball.
had a shot, right? Memphis
Yeah.
had a shot, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
look, Patrick
Memphis.
Ewing just got to rebuild that program, baby. But look, and on that note, I will plug there. I do have something coming to Latino Rebels. You could call it Latino Madness, if you will, but this is something about like some of the players worth following
I
from
like that.
different Latin American. You know what I'm
Uh,
saying? Like,
and
you gotta show
Illinois-
some love. You know,
Illinois has what, 3 Puerto Ricans on the team? I'm pretty sure.
4.
4.
Wow.
4. So it's just gonna be just notes on like, hey, you should follow this person. Here's why. You know, whatever.
Latino.
Illinois has 4. 3 of them play consistently. They have Trent Frazier, Alfonso Plummer, Andre Curbelo, and RJ Melendez, who doesn't play that much yet. But he's a freshman. So
Latino Madness sounds like a username that Brian would create for some kind of social
It sounds
media.
like it sounds like a hot sauce or something.
It
yo,
does.
good teams got it. I keep saying Julius Strong. Tennessee got 2. Tennessee got Puerto Ricans, the Kaiser.
Here we go.
And then they
Now-
got
now all you
I
gotta do
didn't,
is
I
have a
didn't
couple
know. I didn't
Puerto
know Ziegler was Puerto Rican. I didn't
He's
know that.
half. Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
black
know
and
that.
Puerto Rican. You know what I'm saying?
All right,
Black dad,
all
Puerto Rican mom. That's how it be. You know what I'm saying?
That's
He's
new-
from
that's
Long
new
Island
heights.
too.
That's
From
new
Long Island
heights.
too.
New
Yeah.
heights. New
Yeah,
heights.
yeah, and they got the dude from Uruguay. I forget Santiago. I forget his last name, but like,
Uh-huh.
he was
Look.
killing in the SEC.
And
championship.
Tennessee's a team to watch too.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
like I said, they got Ziegler, but they also got, I'm blanking on his name, but the other freshman guard they have he'll probably be in the NBA next year also.
Ooh, yeah.
I've got Tennessee. I've got Tennessee in the Elite 8. So
Yeah.
I
Watch
think
out for
they're a team to watch too. All right.
I
However-
will also note we are
Yes.
not doing a one-time for your mind today. As you can see, we're at the 70th minute. I will say though, right before we started, Scott Hall passed away, and just wanted to like just mention that so that we don't totally ignore it. Obviously, you know I'm a big wrestling fan here. Dexter, that was when y'all were watching wrestling. Also, you and Murph, this was in the 1990s. Scott Hall was a big fucking star. He was Razor Ramon in WWF from 92 to 96. Then moved on to WCW, helped form the NWO with Scott Hall, with Kevin Nash, with Hulk Hogan, and then half of WCW after that. But yo, just wanted to pay some respects because that dude was awesome. He was one of the best to ever do it, one of the best to never win a world title. Former world champion in Puerto Rico, just to bring it back there, in the
Here
World
we
Wrestling
go.
Council.
Of course.
Universal Heavyweight Champion Scott Hall, salute. That motherfucker had a life and a half. 2-time WWE Hall of Famer. Had a great speech. I posted a clip from that on Twitter earlier because it was awesome just how he sort of ended it. And if you watch wrestling in the 1990s, I tweeted this, I'm going to say it here. If you watch wrestling in the 1990s and thought it was cool, he's partially to thank for that because he helped make wrestling cool when before it was about cartoonish characters and larger than life personalities. And he just came into WCW, him and Kevin Nash, and was like, nah, like this is what it is. And it made liking the bad guys cool, which wasn't really a thing before the NWO. So salute to Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, a fucking legend. So cool that the Latinos, we thought he was a Latino because he was playing the Cuban character in the WWF, Razor Ramon, and then you find out he's not a Latino, and it's kind of like whatever. You know what I mean?
What's your problem? What's your problem?
Still kind of claim him.
It's problematic, but I understand why you.
He got away with it, and we're kind of like,
he got away with
it.
He got away with it because I thought he was Latino too, and everybody I know is trying to do the Razor's Edge. You remember that, Murph? Everybody's trying to do the Razor's Edge.
Yeah, look, people had toothpicks. People had toothpicks in high school. You saw a toothpick in somebody's mouth. It might have been that Razor Ramon influence. So look, man, you gotta honor them legends.
Gotta honor the legends. Salute to Razor Ramon. And we didn't do it one time for your mind, but I do want to say one thing that's been going on around basketball outside of March Madness. And it's a different kind of madness. Okay, it's going on. Listen, look, we got to stop. We got to stop the Kyrie Irving. Okay, and the Nets. We got to stop. All right, we don't have to do this. Like, I understand that the vaccine mandate, indoor policy, businesses, it doesn't make sense the way it is in New York. I understand all that, but this is not a civil rights issue. Kyrie Irving is not being denied some right to do what he wants to do or love. And what makes me mad is people like, oh, well, he can't do it because of this mandate. He's got a choice. He could go and get a jab, and he could end this if he wants to play. Okay? I don't think it's changing anytime soon. I'm not saying that the mandate as it is doesn't make sense. Two things can be true, folks. The mandate cannot make sense, but there's also an option for Kyrie to end this, and he could just go get the jab, but he refused to do that. I have no sympathy. Stop making this a civil rights issue. Stop with the free Kyrie. Stop with the hashtag free Kyrie. It makes no sense. We gotta stop saying free a lot of people who don't even need to be free.
Yeah.
How about free yourself and care about public health and get the jab? How about that?
Yeah.
That
And
might make sense.
I didn't like the way Kevin Durant came at Mayor Adams, calling him by his first name. It was very, very disrespectful to me, and it just makes me think like I don't think he did on with that in mind, but it just like would you treat a white mayor like that? You know what I mean? So it's just like I don't. It kind of feeds into all these people who wanna smash Eric Adams because he's black, who just simply don't like a black mayor. It feeds into that kind of thing,
Mm.
which is definitely out there. And I'm happy that Kevin Durant came out kind of with an apology statement today. So I appreciate that because give the man his respect. Also, it's not solely his decision. First of all, he inherited the law. Okay,
Right.
so it's something. It's
Right.
really something that he has to overturn. And
Right.
I'm not sure he has the. It's not even just him. It's the governor who has
Correct.
ultimate authority. On any kind of health related issue in the city. I understand the city has its own jurisdiction. I got into it with some Nets fan on Twitter today about it. That's why
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
ain't
talk
even
off the top
gonna
of
do
my head. But it's not. He doesn't. He is not the ultimate authority on New York. Okay, so it's kind of like you got all these people piling on the black mayor. Okay,
Mm.
and I didn't like the way Kevin Durant
Me either.
kind of like encouraged that. Even if it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, and one other thing, and the reason I felt like we needed to talk about it on this platform, the other thing too is like that's been annoying me is that again, like I said, this is not a civil rights issue that people are making it out to be, which is absolutely ridiculous. But the other thing about it too, and I'm glad you brought up about Mayor Adams, obviously being black, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving also being black. This is a disease in COVID that has hurt the black community in large numbers, right? And I think that's what annoys me the most with around Kyrie, no matter how you feel about it. And for the people that are advocating, talking about free Kyrie, hey, you care? Do you care about these other black lives that have been dying for it, and the people that either have been vaccinated or not been vaccinated? And it's not. This is not about basketball. Some of this stuff is to protect workers in different private sectors that work, and so it just happens to overlap in basketball, and it doesn't make sense with all the spectator stuff. We went through all that,
Yeah.
Right.
but you can't expect Adams or the governor to just drop it and act like there aren't other businesses that are affected by this that still need to have these mandates that work for them. You know what? I love the NBA, but on this when it comes to public health, forget basketball. Who cares about all this now?
cares? Yeah.
Y'all, what it comes across is the people who's Murph you probably arguing with on Twitter are selfish fans of a particular team that just want something to go their way, and it tells me
Yup.
that they too do not care about public health, and that's what's disappointing to me when I see the free Kyrie stuff and all this other stuff. Kyrie has a choice, man. Like I said, this is
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
this is not like he's being held to do something against his own will. What it comes down to with these mandates, it's a lot of it is the mandates and stuff have been reasonable, regardless of how this doesn't make sense in the NBA arena where role players come in. The mandates have been reasonable. What it
Yeah.
comes down for y'all that are really mad is you're selfish, so you want to see this guy play, and two, you know what? You just didn't want somebody else to tell you what to do. That's what it
Yeah.
comes down. You just
And
mad
that-
about somebody telling you what to do.
And Net fans,
maybe
Net
you're
fans,
mad
y'all.
at, yeah. And
Yeah,
maybe
and
you're
that-
mad at who's telling you what to do.
Yeah,
Right.
and
It's
that
just
too.
that somebody is. If
And Net
somebody is.
fans, y'all gotta keep it real because if Kyrie Irving was a Knick, y'all wouldn't give a fuck if he played again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
word.
that's the other
wouldn't.
thing. Like
They
y'all only
wouldn't.
care
But
because he's on your team.
But you know what? And we gotta get out of this. You know what makes him more mad? If he was a Knick, they might have changed that law again because they'd actually care about that. That's it for this episode 216 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. That'll make him mad. Thank you to our guest, Jamal Murphy. Murph, thanks for joining us, man. We talked a lot of college basketball. We're excited about the tournament, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you more throughout it. For Brian Fonseca and Jamal Murphy, I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.